everyone. Welcome to the Trauma Research Foundation. We happily welcome you to integrate a mind-body practice for working through trauma. We're so excited you're here with us. Inspired by the insights of our founder, Dr. Bessel Kolk, and his groundbreaking book, The Body Keeps the Score, this program invites you to reconnect with the parts of yourself that may have been set aside or overlooked, and embrace a more curious, more connected you. In this safe and supportive space, you'll have the opportunity to move, explore, and uncover the deep connection between your mind and your body. Together, we'll engage in body-based sessions led by experts in trauma and movement. Whether you support others in their healing journey or focus on your own, there's something valuable for everyone. Come as you are and stay to discover who you were meant to be. If you're watching us on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the TRF channel. It lets YouTube know that this content is valuable, and then they'll spread the word by showing it to more people. From the Trauma Research Foundation, I'm your host, Mary Frangie, and behind the scenes, I'm joined by the TRF staff, Carrie Cyrus, Connor McCann, Liz Coda, and Tammy Cassidy. We are thrilled to introduce you to Licia Sky. Licia is the co-founder of the Trauma Research Foundation. She's our former CEO and our current global ambassador. Her session today is entitled Embodied Awareness, Integrating Rhythm and Sensation in Therapeutic Practice. Licia is a somatic educator, artist, singer-songwriter, integration specialist, and body worker who works with people impacted by trauma. She guides mental health professionals to use mindful meditation in movement, theater exercises, writing, and voice as tools for attunement, healing, and connection. She is a regular instructor in trauma healing workshops at Cape Cod Institute, Ketamine Training Center, and Esalen. For the past decade, she has been teaching expanded awareness workshops to clinicians and lay people around the world. Licia, we are so happy to have you. Please take it away.
Thanks so much, Mary. It's really amazing to be with all of you. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about time first, because all of these practices are practices that happen in time. They happen in slow time. And we live in a world that feels busier and busier all the time. And in order to be slow enough to develop a relationship with yourself, it can be really, really difficult to, to figure out how to meet the feelings that you have inside, and you can be so busy that you don't even know that you have feelings inside. And if you're in therapy, you might be doing a lot of talking, and you might, I'm going to have to ask Mary first to cut off the chat and to take the name away so that I can be focused. Thanks. Yeah. These are practices about paying attention to our bodies. And these practices for paying attention to our bodies are ways of developing a relationship with ourself. And they're ways of being able to know what we feel, and not just know what we feel, but to be fully present with what we feel, to be able to meet what's inside us. It's not necessarily dealing with a big story. It might not be dealing with everything that happened. We talk about treating trauma as if it's one specific thing, but the practices, the somatic practices, are a way of getting to know yourself beyond your stories, beyond what happened. It's more about being able to be now in the present moment, knowing what you're feeling, knowing what's coming up, and being able to be slow enough So what happens with trauma is that people have a lot of what's called reactivity, where your response is so fast, you don't even know what you're choosing or what you're thinking. And so it's very fast, it's very nervous, and you might have a system that's very tight, very high strung, moving very fast. You might be moving very fast in your life or having a lot of stuff that you're coping with. And so being able to find a way to slow things down is enormously important. You know, with media, social media, everything's happening so fast that our attention is going in so many ways. And if you have stress coming from many different directions at the same time, it makes it very, very difficult to know when you're responding in an aware way and when you're reacting without knowing what you're really doing. So, so time is an important thing. And what I'm going to be inviting you to do is pay attention to all the things that we think we know around us. We think we know where we are, and we kind of tune it out. It becomes part of the background. And so I'm going to invite you to slow down enough that everything that's in the background that you're usually filtering out when you're dealing and not feeling, you're moving forward and you're doing everything, we're going to just slow that down. So the first thing I'm going to invite you to do, and I'm going to use the language of invitation. Invitation means that you have a choice to try or not try. Invitation means you get to say no thank you. You get to say, oh, I'll just watch. I'm not going to actually do what you're inviting me to do. And the the most important thing is to notice what's coming up for you with everything in this session, with everything in this time. What comes up for you? And that means what comes up for you in thoughts, what comes up for you in your body. If you're able to notice, what's my body doing? What am I reacting to? Are my shoulders going up? Is there something in me that says yes or no? And the keys to noticing what's happening in your body are tension. Is there tension in your body, or is there something letting go? Is there something that feels warm or cool? Or you get to notice your breath. You'll get to notice, am I breathing deeply? Is it a shallow breath? Am I fast? Am I slow? And hopefully, in following along with this practice, even if you're not doing everything, that's fine. You'll be able to begin to notice what you're experiencing. That's the most important thing. What comes up for you? And to know that we often think that our minds know first, but in truth, our bodies know first. Our bodies respond to everything around us all the time. Our bodies are giving us information about how comfortable we are or uncomfortable we are, how relaxed or tense we are. And then our mind interprets what happens in our body. Our mind makes a story. Our minds are beautiful storytellers. And they can take just about anything happening in our body and turn it into a story. But the first thing is that things are happening in our body. And I'll say the the things that happen in our body are expand, contract, forward, backwards, moving towards something, which is like a yes, I want to be engaged, more of this, please, or pulling back, which is no, thank you, I need some space, a little boundary, that's not comfortable. These are things that we do all the time that we've been doing since we didn't have words. So even though I'll be talking, I hope you'll be tracking your experience, your nonverbal experience. And the words that I use to invite will be notice, sense, and imagine. So noticing is like, oh, something's happening. Where is it happening? What's going on? And then sense is, how do I know what I'm noticing? What sense happened? Was it a smell? Was it a sensation of temperature? Is it a sensation of tightness or looseness? So that's sensing. And then I offer the word imagine, because we live in cultures that don't often allow us to acknowledge unusual things that we experience. We tend to have a very narrow portal of language for what we are experiencing. And a lot of stuff that we experience can be dismissed as, oh, you're just making it up. So I invite you to embrace that, to embrace your imagination and imagine what you are experiencing. If it's something that's unusual, you might not feel that you culturally have permission to acknowledge it, but I invite you to acknowledge it with your imagination if that's the safest way. Okay, so whenever I teach, I'm always teaching from my own body. I'm practicing listening to my body as I invite you to listen to your body. So I'm sitting on a stool, and maybe I'll even show you the stool I'm sitting on. It doesn't even have a back. It's just a stool. And I like sitting on a backless chair. If you're not on a backless chair, or maybe you're sitting on the floor, cross-legged, whatever, I just, the first thing that I'm going to do when I start paying attention to my body with you is to sit on the edge of my chair so that I can feel what are called sits bones. They're the hip bones that we sit on. And then I can feel my sits bones sinking into the cushion of my chair. And I have a sense of connection with the base of my spine. So I wonder if you can feel your sits bones sinking into the cushion of your chair, or meeting the hardness of the wood of your chair, whatever you're sitting on. What's it like to have that connection with the base of your spine? Sometimes when I pay attention and just let that be there, I notice a sense of temperature. I notice a sense of texture and contact with what I'm sitting on. And what's it like to just feel the weight of your body being supported in that way? So my feet are on the ground and I don't have shoes on. I prefer to teach everywhere I go, even if I'm in a big auditorium in front of a lot of people. I tend to take my shoes off and invite people to take their shoes off. So you could just have a moment of pondering that, or taking your own shoes off. And as I sit here with my sits bones sinking into my chair and my bare feet on the floor, I can notice the texture of a carpet under my feet. I wonder what you notice with your feet, whether you're in shoes, in an office, in a room, maybe sitting outside on a beach somewhere. What do your feet feel? What do the soles of your feet feel? And I do this because having a sense of gravity is really important. That's why we talk about being grounded, that there's something about being grounded that can help settle your whole nervous system, that can help slow things down, help you feel like anything that's live wire out there has a place to connect and center and ground you. So I'll invite you to notice, sense, or imagine gravity helping you to ground into the magnetic core of the planet that we're sitting on. I invite you to push first one foot and then the other into the floor. As I do this, I can feel the muscles of my legs engaging to push my foot into the floor. And I can feel how pushing one foot into the floor pushes my opposite hip a little bit more into the chair. And I can feel my hips rocking back and forth. I wonder what you can feel as you press your feet into the floor. You're welcome to close your eyes, keep a soft gaze, or keep your eyes open. It's not really necessary to look at me. If you can hear my voice, I hope it's clear enough for you. That's the most important thing. And to be listening to your own experience, feeling the strength of your legs having enough power to push, or imagining being able to push. I know some people are differently abled. And so, what's it like to sense into, listen into, and imagine into the fullness of your feet and your legs? There's a way of listening internally and listening externally with what we do. And from here, I'm going to invite you to come back again to the base of your spine. And I like to start with the base of my spine as being a place that really does let everything land. But from here, I'm going to invite you to follow with your imagination or with your senses as best you can the length of your spine at the back side of your body. So I'm invoking that in a general way to start off with. Just can you feel the length of your spine from the base of your spine that's making contact with the chair? Imagine or notice the length of your spine going all the way up from your sacrum to your lumbar, that's where your waist is, to where your ribs are, through your wing bones, your scapula, to the base of your neck, to the base of your skull. And then allow your noticing, sensing, or imagining to sink all the way back down to the base of your spine again. And this time I'll do it a little bit slower. I invite you, I'm going to actually name the segments of the spine and invite you to heighten your awareness of the back side of your body. I invite you to notice that you have a tailbone, the base, the very, very tip of your spine, kind of tucks under. It's a short little thing. And it's called a coccyx. And that's part of how we balance. I'm going to invite you to notice, sense, or imagine the very, very tip of your spine. It's a delicate little thing. And allow your awareness to rise up to the low back portion of your spine, your sacral area, where your hips are between you, but it's below your waist. Some people have dimples back there. It feels firm if you tap it. And it doesn't have a lot of flexibility, but it has a lot of stability. So I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine your sacrum, the lowest part of your back above your tailbone. With the next breath in and out, I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine the area of your back and your spine called the lumbar region. It's right around where your waistline is or where your waistband on your pants might be. And you might give your hips a tiny little wiggle from side to side and see if you can't articulate, move just a tiny bit enough to actually notice sensation in that lumbar low back region of your spine. What's it like to just hang out there? It's a tiny little thing. And notice what you like or don't like, what you feel or don't feel. For somebody who feels a lot, it could be a surprise. And for somebody who's not able to notice very much, it might be a little frustrating. What's happening for you? And you can bring your awareness with your noticing, sensing, and imagining further up your spine. And in the back of our bodies, our ribs start to connect above the lumbar region and the part of the spine called the thoracic region. So as we come up to the thoracic region of the spine, and thorax means chest, but in the back of your body, I'm going to invite you to just wiggle your ribs a tiny bit. See if you can move your ribs from side to side, just a tiny bit. Or bend forward and back just a tiny bit. It's above your waist, and you might not be able to do very much movement there from side to side or front to back, but what can you do to feel your ribs move on either side of your spine? And can that bring you some more awareness of that area of your spine? And I invite you to bring your awareness even higher up between your wing bones, your scapula. It's also in the thoracic region, but for here, you might try squeezing your shoulders back just a tiny bit and then letting them go, squeezing back just a tiny bit. And notice how your spine moves if you squeeze your shoulders back and then release them. Squeeze your shoulders back and then release them and see, how is your spine moving? I can feel the curve of my spine going back and forwards as I squeeze my shoulders together, squeeze my wing bones together. And what's that like for you? Is it fluid and loose? Is it stiff and tight? Can you feel your ribs move when you move your shoulders? Can you notice how this affects your breathing? And what can you feel if you come back to stillness? How much awareness can you have of the back side of your body? And with the next breath in and out, I invite you to allow your awareness to rise even further up your spine to the base of your neck. And for here, you might lift your shoulders a tiny bit and then drop them down again. And lift a tiny bit and drop them down again. And see if you can't begin to sense the inkling of a hello with the base of your neck. Yeah. And then we have the base of your neck all the way up to the top of your spine where your head rests. So your neck, the region of your spine where your neck is called the cervical region. You might place a hand at the back of your neck just for a moment and feel that. Yeah. You might tip your head gently from side to side with the intention of noticing the sensations in your spine. Not just the muscles of your neck, but your spine. Maybe a little tip back, a little tip forward. And if you're really focusing on your spine, you might feel the sensations. You might be able to notice, sense, or imagine the sensations of this movement of your head, gentle movement of your head, all the way down to the base of your spine. Just invite you to notice what comes up for you. And any time, if you need to move differently than I'm inviting, you might need to shake things off a little bit or squiggle or squirm. That's completely fine. What's really important in every moment is for you to be able to notice your experience with as much detail as possible, as much specificity as possible. And maybe what you're noticing is, oh, this is really interesting, or, oh, this is really boring, or, oh, I'm really restless. Those are all important things to notice as we just go very, very slowly. What do you like? What do you not like? It's a different way of paying attention to your body. Yeah, and now I invite you to notice the weight of your head at the top of your spine. If you listen in, are you able to feel the heaviness of your head? And you might try tipping back and finding a place of balance so that your head can be very, very still. And then from here, try leaning your chin forward just a little bit. And if you lean your chin forward just a little bit, you can feel the pull of the weight of your head and how the muscles on either side of your spine, all the way down your back, have to work to support the weight of your head. And come back until it feels like the muscles in your back aren't working so hard to support the weight of your head. And just notice that difference. From here, I invite you to play around with noticing the size of your head, the volume of your head. See if you can listen in and feel the back of your ears. Feel around to the front of your ears. Just wake up your noticing, sensing, or imagining. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine your scalp, your hairline, or your not hairline if you don't have hair. I invite you to notice the sensation of your forehead and your brow. Listen into the sensations around your eyes. We have muscles around our eyes. And I invite you to try smiling with your eyes for just a moment. Even with your eyes closed, you might have a way of raising your eyebrows or widening your eyes or narrowing your eyes. The muscles around your eyes are called your ocularis. Oculi. Little muscles around your eyes. You might try smiling so that you can feel your cheekbones. Noticing what a smile that moves your cheekbones does to your eyes and to your forehead. Don't forget to breathe while you do this. Feel your lips, feel your nose. I invite you to feel your jaw and your chin. You might wiggle your jaw from side to side and see if you can sense or feel the tightness or looseness of your jaw. I invite you to breathe in and out through your nose. Feel the full volume of your head. And coming down to your neck again, I invite you to feel the full volume of your neck in front of your spine, around your spine. You might even want to place a hand on your neck. And as you do, you might notice that your sense of how large or small you are is different when you actually make contact with yourself than when you're just sitting and noticing and sensing and imagining without making contact. I invite you to bring your awareness to the full volume of your body in front of and to either side of your spine. To feel your shoulders, to feel the breadth of your chest, to feel the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe in and out. Allowing your awareness to come to your solar plexus, right at the base of your ribs below your chest, where your ribs come together. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine your belly in front of your spine, your visceral cavity in front of your spine, where many organs are, where your intestines are, and your kidneys and bladder and everything that's inside, stomach, sexual organs, it's all in there, and we don't usually notice that so much of our vitality is right here in this cavity. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine how your breath moves your whole torso. Breathing in and out through your nose or your mouth. Can you feel your rib cage expand as you inhale? Can you feel your belly expand, your diaphragm open up as you inhale? And can you feel things contract and get smaller as you exhale? I invite you as much as possible to allow yourself to be aware of your whole body right now. To feel your breath, perhaps to hear the sounds of your own breathing. I can hear the sound of my breath going in and out my nostrils. I can feel the air moving through my sinuses, down the back of my throat. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine the air expanding in your chest, inside your lungs. Our lungs are almost like sponges that absorb air and get squeezed of the carbon dioxide in and out, like a sponge expanding and contracting. All those tiny vessels that bring oxygen to all the cells of our body through our blood. If you allow your diaphragm to expand, you can take a deeper breath. We don't just breathe through our chest, we breathe with our whole body. And I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine the displacement of your viscera as you inhale and expand the capacity of your lungs. Hear the sounds of your breathing in, the sounds of breathing out. And I think this might be a good moment to pause. And Mary, if you'd open the chat, I invite everybody who's watching now to just put a word or two about what you notice in the chat, just for a moment, just to kind of land what we just did. Because for me, this is very expansive. And if you don't have a lot of experience doing this, it can be like a dream. Hard to remember what happened. Just how much of your body are you feeling? Yeah. And so much can come up just from feeling that. We can notice what feels alive. Sometimes people fall asleep. Sometimes people say, oh, your voice is so calm, I fell asleep, and that's fine. Sometimes we're going so much that we don't know how tired or tense we are. So I invite you to notice. And sometimes we don't notice pain that we're carrying, or sometimes we don't notice how good we feel or how calm we can feel. Yeah, so just where we are right now, that's a nice place to land. And it's very nice to read what's happening in the chat. I'll just give you another moment to just feel that and feel the aliveness of your body. And as I do this, I feel a little bit of a need to squirm. So I'll invite you to squirm if that's what you need to do too. Yeah. Sometimes we don't have permission to squirm, especially I remember being in school and having to sit very straight and very still, and that's a practice in and of itself. But being free to move is also a practice, and having permission to move and squirm is also very nice. Yeah, I really appreciate everything that's happening, and people who are feeling restless or a little antsy about this because it's new for you, I invite you to just sit with that with curiosity. So these these explorations and practices can bring up many, many, many different feelings. So there's no one right way to do this. This is only for gathering information about you. And with that, we can close the chat again for a moment. Yeah. And you can just shake it off for a second, and then we're going to settle back in again. I just wanted you to remember what it was like for that first part of listening to your feet, your legs, the base of your spine, gravity, the backside of your body, and then really, really with specificity, the whole length of your spine, from the base of your spine to the top of your neck, and then filling in your whole body in front of and around your spine. What's that like? Yeah. In passing, that's taken us, maybe half an hour. I don't know. I want to do just a tiny bit more, and then we'll open it up for questions. But I wanted to bring us back to connecting with our bodies. Sometimes when I'm going inward and sensing the sensations of my body from the inside, I begin to feel very expansive, and it can feel as if I'm out here, because that's how much awareness we have the capacity to be aware of. And that that awareness of the space outside our body is called proprioceptive awareness. And the awareness of what's happening inside our body is called interoceptive awareness. So I'm going to invite you to bring your hands to your body, and I'm just going to tilt this so you can see my body a little bit more. I'll sit back a little bit. To bring a hand to your belly and a hand to your chest. And to just, you might close your eyes again if you want, or soften your gaze if you want. But from here, I'm going to invite you to just notice, sense, or imagine the volume of your body, the solidness of your body. I invite you to notice what your hands feel. What does your hand feel that's on your belly? Are there thoughts or feelings that come up when you have your hand on your belly? What do you like or not like about your belly? But what does your hand feel? Like, I can feel the texture of my shirt. I can feel the firmness and the contour of my belly. With my other hand on my chest, I can feel how my chest feels different from my belly to this hand. What does your hand that's on your chest feel? With both your hands, can you feel the movement of your breath when you inhale and exhale? Can you feel the temperature of your body? Can you feel how your body moves, the softness or firmness of it? Can you sense in with both your hands and your body? And see if you can feel, notice, sense, or imagine the distance between the surface of your palms and your spine. Can you feel that distance? Can you notice, sense, or imagine all the way back to your spine from your hands? So we're playing with imagination. We're playing with our sense of inside and outside. And I invite you to squeeze your elbows into your torso just a little bit. See if you can't feel the sides of your body. Yeah. I invite you to notice the movement of your breath. And with a hand that's on your chest, if you press firmly, you might be able to notice, sense, or imagine a little thumping against your hand, a little pulse against your hand that tells you, my heart's in there beating. Usually it happens when we're nervous more than when we're calm. Sometimes when we're calm, our heartbeat is very quiet. But sometimes you can listen inside and still feel that. You can notice, sense, or imagine that every time you inhale, your lungs expand enough to envelop your heart just a little bit. Your lungs give your heart a little squeeze when you inhale, and they let go, just the way you'd let go of a hug when you exhale. And I invite you to notice the sensations of holding this body that you're holding a person. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine holding the person that you're holding. And I invite you as much as possible to hold an intention of respect and kindness for the person that you're holding. What thoughts and feelings come up right now, this moment, this holding? And in the next breath in and out, I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine that you are being held by these arms and hands that are holding you. What are the sensations of being held? What's the pressure? What's the temperature? How far inside your body are you able to notice the sensations of this contact? What do you like? What's comfortable? What do you not like? What's uncomfortable? All information for you to notice your experience. I invite you to notice being held by someone who's been invited to hold an intention of respect and kindness toward you. And I invite you to notice how much respect and kindness you are able to receive in this moment. What's okay? What's challenging? What's easy? What do you wish for? What are you really receiving? Just a little bit of a hello. With the next breath in and out, I invite you to release your arms, release your hands, and just notice what happens as you release your arms. My hands are about 4 inches away from my body, and I've been holding my body for a while. 5 inches away from my body, a little bit more. What are you able to notice, sense, or imagine in your hands and in your body? For me, there's always a sense of resonance, that there's an echo of that contact there. That maybe it's a cooling because my hands are warm and everything's cooling off now. Maybe there's something tingly there, but there's a residue of that sensation of contact. And I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine what you feel. Yeah. So this playing with the space around our body, even just doing this, maybe I'm just fanning the air, maybe that's what I'm feeling. Yeah, I can tell myself many things about what it is that's happening. But I invite you to play with opening and closing your arms. We can say we're gathering, or we're giving, or we're receiving. Yeah. And just maybe float one hand over the other. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine what you feel if you float one hand over the other. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine how your body knows how to keep your hand the distance that it does from your body. You might try scanning your head. These are motions that happen in many cultures. There are many cultures that have rituals of purification and blessing. So I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine what it feels like to scan or hover or gather or bless or cleanse with these gestures. Yeah. This is just a little bit, and I feel like I'm running out of time. So I hope I have another chance to come back and share more with you because there's so much to share. There's so many practices to practice and so many ways to explore. This is a taste of how to listen to your body and know where the stories about where you are in your mind are coming from. So I invite you to put some responses in the chat, and I know that people on the team are also reviewing questions that you might have. But I hope that and I do think the chat is open again for you to put responses in. Um, what were you able to notice from holding yourself, from listening differently in that way? And then I welcome your questions. Yeah. So self-holding is a wonderful practice. It's something I like to do when I go to bed. I spend quite a bit of time doing that kind of body scan, doing that kind of self-holding, just checking in. And I actually like to talk to myself and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" And then listen to what the responses are from my body. And that's part of my practice. I have as hectic a life as anybody out there. And these are things that we can do that, you know, putting your hand on your chest, it's kind of a common gesture. And we might not always do it knowing that we're doing it. But especially in this digital age, placing a hand on your heart might be a way of sending your heart energy to somebody else. You might rub your heart like this, and that way of grounding and landing with contact is something that you're receiving for yourself. But because we have mirror neurons, you as a viewer seeing me do this might be receiving something yourself. And it might make you want to put your hands there yourself and feel a little bit of that for you. So these are practices for how to be with you. You can do these alone. You can do these with other people. And I guarantee that every time you do it, it will be different. There might be a time when you start doing it and you feel restless and anxious. And you might find that over time, you're able to do it for longer. You're able to not be so restless and uncomfortable with it. Yep.
Oh,
And are people ready with questions now?
yeah. Yeah, Chantel asks a great question.
Okay.
How do you accept parts of yourself without anger when they're parts that you reject because they give you pain or illness or you don't like those parts? How do I accept them without anger?
Ah, that's a really good thing. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I, I'll say that what you're experiencing is the part of you that's having the pain and the part of you that doesn't want the pain. But there's another part of you inside that might have compassion for both the part that's holding the pain and the part that doesn't want the pain. And it, it is a hard thing. There might be a lot of grief there around the pain. That it it's a moment to be slow. It's a moment to have compassion. That's why I offer the words respect and kindness when we're doing self-holding. I I think many of us have not had a lot of comfort with the pain that we experience. And being able to give yourself comfort and sympathy, even if you can't stop the pain, is a respectful and kind thing. To be able to be with the suffering is something that we often don't have from other people, but we can practice giving it to ourselves. If you've ever held a child that needed comfort, you know that the agitation is there, and then with the comfort, with the holding, it can slow down. So the part that doesn't want the pain, the part that feels the anger, that's the agitated part that's like, "Ugh." And the part that's in pain, it is probably more still than the part that's angry. And being able to hold them both in a way that says, I'm here for you, even as you hurt, is a huge practice. And that doesn't mean that that takes the place of getting other help that you need for the pain, but being present with yourself in an accepting way is a big practice. And it's a practice. That means you might be able to do it for a minute. You know, I did this for a half an hour with you guys. Maybe a minute is all you can stand at first. You just notice the difference between before and after with that minute. And it's a practice. Another question I'd love, please.
Well, kind of piggybacking off of that question, what's a good, Ashley asks, what's a good practice to not hold judgment for yourself when your thoughts take over and you aren't really able to feel the sensations?
Yeah. You know, I think the thoughts, I think thoughts, yeah. Um, Thoughts are important. And they're coming up as you're trying to pay attention to your body. And it's not a bad thing to have thoughts. It's like, oh, there's the thought. But when you're feeling judgment about your thoughts, usually that means that there's some tension happening in your body. So what is the feeling of judgment like? Where do you feel judgment in your body? Does your chest tighten up when you feel judgment? How are you breathing? So when you're having a thought and whatever those thoughts are that are taking you away, find your breath. Find your breath. And it's like, okay, the thoughts are there and I can be there with my thoughts, but can I bring my breath into it? Sometimes it's looking around and seeing where you are or pushing your feet into the floor, finding the base of your spine again. And it doesn't mean the thoughts go away. It just means that you're grounding your thoughts in your body and going, okay, how does this relate to how I feel right now? And that's a practice. It's not a perfect thing. But for me, the dive into my sensations is so enjoyable that that becomes the focus. That's where my mind is following my body. And you might get to the place where you enjoy it so much that that happens for you too.
Yeah, thank you. Marianne from YouTube is asking, when you do this, how do you know when enough is enough? When to release them from your energy stream you work so generously to share? She's someone who works with veterans and first responders and their families.
It really depends on the situation. When I'm teaching in a workshop and it's to a lot of therapists who want to do this, I'll kind of go through a whole huge thing. Or if I'm in a workshop where I've got a week with people, this is the very first thing we do. And that kind of gets us to know the temperature of the room and all the different flavors. Because even in a room full of people who've experienced a lot of trauma, there's going to be a vast difference in their capacity to stay present with this kind of practice. Some people, a minute and they're done, and they're like staring out the window or they're fidgeting and wishing they had their phone on them. And that's okay. That's perfect because then they can know that coming up against this kind of attention to themselves is a big challenge. And we can see who loves it, who's delicious with it, who's not. It's not ever about making or getting someone to, it's about practicing. And I'm always practicing myself in the moment. I don't ever try and guide from a script. My body is my script. My body from moment to moment is the most interesting thing for me to share paying attention to so that someone else can be aware of their own experience. And if I'm working in a session or I'm teaching with Bessel in a session, it might be that it's just a moment of checking in. How's your breath right now? Where's the tension in your body? Your shoulders are kind of forward. I can feel my shoulders a little bit forward. How is that for you? What's it like if we take a breath and pause? And this practice is like the foundation. It's like the baseline of awareness that we want to be able to have more of going through the flow of the day. And then how much you actually practice on your own, that's another thing. The self-holding, I can do this for a minute. I can do this in the car before I go somewhere, or I can get in the car after a big meeting or something and just go, and just have an exhale, have a little bit of, it's okay. I'm right here in my body. That's what it's about. Um, Another question?
Um, Martha is asking a question that I think can be really generalized. Her question is, how do you best integrate this practice with betrayal trauma recovery? But I think the question can be, how do we just start integrating this practice as clinicians or on our own? What are the ways we start?
I'll say that if you're a clinician, I don't think you can guide anybody in doing this unless you practice it and know your body in this way. And it's for you first. And if you are a person who's working with a therapist and they don't do this kind of thing, you might say, could we try? I learned this thing about how to be in my body. Could we spend a minute landing before we start talking? And whenever I start any kind of session, it's always landing and checking in. How am I? How connected? How grounded? How much gravity am I feeling? How aware am I of the space around me? Where's my spine? Where's my body? And you can do that in an instant as well as do it for a half an hour or an hour. Yeah. So and then come back to these videos if you want.
Yeah. Thank you, Licia. As we're wrapping up, I want to let everyone know that you can find the replay of this session in the Trauma Research Foundation Somatic Library. So just visit the website and look for the Somatic Library. And Licia has previous videos in that Somatic Library. So scroll through, look around, and you'll find more from her and from others. Licia, this has been a wonderful session. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're grounded, and you've given us the chance to truly connect to ourselves and notice ourselves. It's such a gift. Thank you to you. Thank you to our entire audience. Integrate strives to offer you a variety of body-based approaches that support trauma recovery, all as inspired by The Body Keeps the Score. Again, please visit the Somatic Library on our website, and the Trauma Research Foundation looks forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.